You're watching News Central Television, and we're still here live at the Nigeria Economic Summit, the 31st edition, having the most important conversations with those who matter, policymakers and shapers, and who is who when it comes to decision-making in Nigeria. Joining me now for another important conversation is Ekenem Isichie, the Deputy Director, Policy Advocacy and Communication at Gates Foundation, Nigeria. Welcome, Ekenem. Thanks for joining us on News Central Television.
Thank you for having me.
Now, looking at human development indices, and when you compare Nigeria globally, we're not in the top 100, and that leaves a lot to be desired. What reforms do you believe are the most critical for Nigeria to unlock its full human capital potential? They always talk about the strength in our population, you know, over 230 million people. But how do we unlock that potential? What needs to be done?
Great question. So I think the first thing is to look at where Nigeria is at the moment. When you look at the human capital index, Nigeria is at 0.36. And we're trying to get to 0.60 by 2030. The second thing is that Nigeria wants to build a $1 trillion economy by 2030. But the question we need to ask is, do we have the right skills, productive skills, to get us to that goal of achieving $1 trillion by 2030?
And it goes beyond physical infrastructure, roads and bridges.
Yeah, because human capital development is investing in people, around health, around education, and making sure they have the right labor skills. So we have to think about this from those fundamental points of view. Are the people we currently have ready to take Nigeria to the next level? And what would it take to do that? So we have to think about, how do we scale local production? How do we invest more in technology? Because technology is a multiplier. You're already seeing it out there. So even when you think about Nigeria and the unicorns that have been built, they came out of Nigeria. These were homegrown companies that were developed, but they have become global icons. You know what I mean? So I think let's go back to the fact that investing in healthcare is important. For us in the Gates Foundation, we have three aspirations. Number one is no mother or child has to die of any preventable cause. The second is we have to get rid of deadly infectious diseases. The third is that we have to lift millions of people out of poverty onto a path of prosperity. When you look at those three aspirations, closely ties into the human capital index. So for us, we believe that you must invest in healthcare. The governments have a role to play. The private citizens have a role to play. The ecosystem has a role to play around that whole piece there. Because part of making sure that you have a productive economy is also making sure you have a healthy economy. You can't skip that. So this is where, for us at the Gates Foundation, we think about that a lot. One of our key priorities is really around the health landscape. And the second is also thinking about the digital landscape. You know, for us, we think about the fact that if you also want to have a productive economy, then you have to think about digital identification.
And that brings me to my next question. Given the Gates Foundation emphasis on data-driven impact, how can Nigeria improve its health and education data systems to support better policymaking?
Fantastic. So right now, there's a new strategy called the HCD 2.0 that is being championed by the Nigerian government. And one of the key things or key pillars for success around that HCD 2.0 strategy is a human capital dashboard, showing how the federal government is performing and how states are performing. See, because you have to use the measurement of performance to really know how things are really happening. And one of the things we're seeing with some states in Nigeria is that now they're adopting some of the HCD indicators into part of their budget performance. Because the question is, as you create your budgets, what are you actually measuring? You know, so we're moving away from just, rolling out budgets from that, you know, with the incorporation of this new strategy, to thinking about how are they actually performing when it comes to human capital. Are they investing in people? Are they investing? Yes, in education. Even the curriculum you currently have at the moment, so most states are thinking about the current educational curriculum you have, are they fit for purpose from a global standard? If you take this workforce you currently have and push them out into the workforce, the question is,
Are they competitive?
Are they globally competitive? It's a question we should always ask. You know, I have a son. I have to think about the fact that this young man that is growing, is he globally competitive? Can he stand before people in different markets, different places?
Even this education curriculum, is it preparing them for a globally competitive market?
Yes, it's a real question to ask. So every parent has to ask more questions around what the kids are actually studying in school and actually pay more attention to what they're actually doing.
Now, what role does the Gates Foundation see for women-led enterprises in Nigeria's digital economy, and how is it supporting its growth? Because the theme of this conference is also you have inclusion part of it, and we can't talk about inclusion without discussing women.
Yeah. So the Gates Foundation has two key programs when it comes to women in general. The first one is women's economic empowerment, and the second one is women in leadership. When you look at women's economic empowerment, one of the big programs we're championing in partnership with the World Bank is the Nigeria for Women project, which clearly defines what women's economic empowerment is it's all about. And number two, it creates a system where, from a data identification point of view, you have women that are registered into the system. It gives them better access to credits, better access to capital, especially those small, micro, medium enterprises that are out there that are owned by women. So we are thinking, so fortunately for us, it's being scaled in Lagos and a few other states, Lagos, Ogun, and a few other states. And so the whole idea is if you can scale this at large, then you can't even tell what the multiplier effects will be, especially for women in Nigeria.
Now, finally, Ekenem, what are the Bill Gates Foundation expectations for Nigerian states in domesticating gender and social inclusion policies?
I think for us, we are a partner. We are actually, the key word for us is we are a trusted partner. We can't tell the government what to do. So what we do is we can only support a system. Now, when it comes to gender-based budgeting, what we try to advocate for is try and think about the importance of putting women at the forefront when it comes to leadership. Think about when you're also putting your budgets together, the multiplier effect when you're funding women-based businesses, when you have women having access to capital. So we think about programs that are just not one-off, but are sustainable. So for us, we're thinking about what sort of sustainable programs do we need to share with the government and partner with the government around, so that way you build a sustainable system that would outlive us as a foundation. We only have 20 years left as a foundation, so it's important that the sustainability plan is in place.
Absolutely, very, very important too. So all the great work doesn't go to waste, and it's carried on from generation to generation. Thank you so much, Ekenem Isichie, Deputy Director, Policy Advocacy and Communication at Gates Foundation Nigeria. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thanks for joining us from News Central.
Thank you, sir.